Hello and welcome to Hub Healer, your home base hub for all your needs, business, personal, mind, body, and soul. And today I am so excited to introduce to you my friend Jamie Day. She is a beautiful, beautiful conduit of love.
Thank you, Darlene.
Love.
I'm so excited to be here.
And that's exactly what you emit into the world. It's what you channel through for your clients. And I welcome you here onto our platform so that I can introduce you to our audience and so you can share your journey.
Thank you. I'm honored.
And what we're going to talk about today is your passion for that love and holding humanity in your heart. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's a big responsibility, and not everybody can do the level of work that you offer the world. And so what I would love to talk about with you is your initiation into this work. So where did it start? Where did your life begin? And what led you to what you do now, which is literally holding people in this container of love when they're in your presence? So where did that start? And did you always know that you were here for this beautiful purpose?
I didn't. I didn't know that I was here for this beautiful purpose. I can remember being 7, 8 years old and being visited by who I now refer to as my Council of Light, these 12 ascended masters. And those memories I had kept so deeply within me that they've just resurfaced in the last probably 10 years. But I can remember being so afraid in our antebellum home up in Northern Illinois, and I'd be sleeping with my younger sister, Stella, and I would feel them come in, and I would just hide under the covers, and I could feel all 12 of them come and stand around our bed. And I didn't know it then, but I do now that they were there as just holders of love and support for me because they knew what I didn't know at that time. But I would say the big awakening for me happened during my first spiritual pilgrimage to Egypt. And that was in late August, early September of 2006. And I was working for a product development company, and the owner of the company had a brochure in the side of his car on the passenger side. And through a very purposeful turn of events, I found that brochure. And as soon as I held it in my hand, I knew I was going on this pilgrimage. I'd always been called to Egypt. My mom and I have many lives there. She's always been called to Egypt. And I felt it like a shockwave. And I was so higher self-led that, and I wouldn't have called it that then.
Mm-hmm.
Darlene, I didn't know where we were going in Egypt. All I knew that I had to be in charge of was getting myself from Sarasota, Florida to JFK Airport at a certain time to catch this flight to Cairo. That's all I needed to know. I had never heard of the word chakra at that point. And when we landed in Cairo and I found the rest of our group, I realized very quickly that I was in a small group of master level healers. I think there were 14 of us total. And we were going on this wonderful, specifically curated experience, this pilgrimage, to follow through the ley lines of Mother Earth on her body, which is Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
For those particular ley lines, we were following how that energy moves up the human body as well, from root to crown. And so we went to the different sacred sites that correlate to the energy centers on the body. We were a small group. We were with a guide who was an Egyptologist and the owner of the travel agency who had wonderful relationships with the the Bedouin guides who took care of these sacred sites. And we were allowed to go in sometimes at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. before they opened to the public at 8.
How magical.
Do heart opening ceremonies, deep meditative ceremonies in these interior chambers of these sanctuaries and temples that maybe some of them were not, I know, open to the public once these sacred sites opened of a morning. And that just cracked me wide open. The other gift of that trip was my roommate. Her name is Bernadette Bloom. She's a master level teacher of an energetic healing modality called esoteric healing. And so Bern knew it then. I didn't. She started my guidance, my mentorship, as we were roommates, just having the best of times, experiencing all of this together. And she lived in Naples at that time. I was here in Sarasota. And so as soon as we got back stateside, every class that she offered, I was in Naples to just drink this information.
Mm-hmm.
And so that led me on the path to, up until that point, I was a professional actor, singer. I had come to Sarasota to workshop a new play from Los Angeles, and before living in LA, living in Manhattan. And I started graduate school to become a psychotherapist and a registered drama therapist. I just got this very clear message while meditating at the Temple of Isis, which, now Isis and I talk every day, all day long. But on the Isle of Philae, I heard her say very clearly, Jamie, you are not going to pursue acting as a career anymore. You're going to re-authenticate. And you will turn this into a service vocation, to be of service to the beings who are alive on this planet with you and to the beings who are not incarnate. I didn't know that that's what she was telling me then, but I do now. I can decipher her language differently.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So here you are moving into it's a new experience for you. How did you know who it was that was speaking to you?
Well, what's interesting is we're always listening through the lens of the ear we have in that now moment.
Mm-hmm.
And in that now moment, I hadn't started my deep dive into my feminine spirituality, the feminist herstory, if you will. I hadn't met my friend and teacher, Vicki Noble. I hadn't started to really dive into all of that information. So for me, a deity came to me through the voice of a male figure or a male voice.
Wow.
Because I had been so indoctrinated,
Yes.
growing up in organized religion, that God was a man. So Isis spoke to me in the voice that she knew I would hear her.
That is amazing.
Because when we are communing and convening with our ascended masters, of which we are their equals, they don't see us as below them. There's no judgment, there's no hierarchy, there's no ego. She knew I was ready. She knew I was ready to really become a pilgrim of life. So she spoke to me in the voice that she knew I would listen to. And I heard this very clear voice: you will not pursue acting as a profession anymore. You will re-authenticate and become of service.
And then what was your next step after that?
I started teaching acting classes. I was like, well, this is what I know how to do. I love it. So I started teaching adult acting classes. And I was doing them for free. I was just finding space where people would donate their space to me. I was hanging up flyers anywhere I could hang up a flyer. This is really before social media even started. For me anyway, my relationship with social media in any capacity. So one of the women who was intuitively led to my classes, she was, I forget her exact title. She was working with a grant funded program in Sarasota, which was here for, I think, 7 years. And it was called the Sarasota Partnership for Children's Mental Health. And she said, Jamie, what you're doing here, I want us to create a program for kids that we're identifying through our program who are in need. And I was like, absolutely, let's do it. So I went to the drawing board. She said all of these words like, I need I need a written sort of plan, a business plan of what you want this to look like. I need a proposal. I need a request for funds. And I was just like, okay, okay, okay. I mean, if she had said, give me a monologue in 16 bars, I would have been like, absolutely, I got that. I can audition. I mean, that's my language. But to hear this other language, it was so new to me. And yet I was in this space of such unconditional love and support and receivership of my own intuitive soul guidance. And thank you, Isis. And now I know Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Grandmother Anna, they were all part of that activation. I wasn't overwhelmed by it because I was in alignment. So I wrote this program, didn't know it at the time. I was doing drama therapy. We created a wonderful summer program for children that she'd identified through the agency that she was working with and their families. And we had a great time. And the final request for funds proposal that I put in, you'll find this to be so tickling because it tickles me to just talk about it. Apparently, these big meetings happened with the Department of Health for all of these different grant-funded organizations. They were all under that umbrella of the Sarasota Department of Health. And the man, I guess, in charge that time was a man named Chip. I never met him. Maybe somebody who listens to this will know him and get to share with him how crucial he was in me becoming who I am today. Apparently, and this is what tickles me, my request for funds came across his desk in this very public forum, of which my friend was there. She had to go for work. And this man, Chip, said, why are we paying a floozy actress to work with our kids?
Wow.
And this is after I'd worked with them all summer. And boy, Sherry told me that. Her name was Sherry, is Sherry. Sherry told me that. And you know what, Darlene, at any other version of me, I think I would have been just like fighting mad. I would have had to defend myself. But there was something so divine and in what he said and the way that my friend shared that with me that I thought, okay, then how do I turn from a floozy actress, which I wasn't, but how do I turn this to continue this authentication process? And so that's what led me to find my mentor in drama therapy. I went to graduate school. I became a registered drama therapist. I matriculated right from that into the marriage and family therapy department, which is psychotherapy. I became a licensed psychotherapist. I started working in all of these different clinical fields and just growing, expanding. And what was happening was I was activating these compassion codes, because I was able to see through going to grad school to become a clinician, really learning how to hold what I had been through on my human journey up until that point with so much grace and reverence, and releasing the judgment and releasing the self-punishment and the self-criticism. Now that's a process. I'm still in that process today, all these years later. And then actively working, practically applying what I'd learned in school to become a support system for families. These activation codes were so powerful. I couldn't not step deeper into them.
Right. So a question about that, would someone who wanted to hold so much reverence, would you recommend a psychology degree? Or are there now other opportunities available to healers who are looking to first heal themselves from what you speak of, so that they can also hold for others, the space for others? Is there a path without someone having to go to traditional, whether it's bachelor's degree or master's degree? I know that so many people feel that these degrees in Western culture are important to be taken seriously, right? So what would you recommend if somebody is thinking that that's an important step for them in order to become a healer or reputable?
It's a great question. And there are so many layers to it. So I'll try to just start in the middle. I voluntarily relinquished my clinical license because after working clinically for so long, and as those compassion codes and source codes and divination codes and expansion codes kept coming online, I was changing daily. I was growing, and what fit for me yesterday didn't fit for me for today. And so I knew through my own mentorship with my guides, that council of light, who have come to me to let me know their name for me is the serpentine seraphim of Yeshua, which I pronounce it not Yeshua, but Yeshua, just because I've heard that through a couple of different Magdalene lineages. And that's what fit for me, that emphasis on those syllables. Um, but that message was very clear for me to voluntarily relinquish my license for my own path. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone unless they felt like that was fully in alignment with their path. And that's kind of the segue to answer your question. Darlene, we are all so lucky to be alive. We are all so lucky to be us. And we are all medicine people. We are all God, goddess, creator, creatrix consciousness. There is nothing out here that we don't hold within here. There is nothing that we do not know. So when it comes to really answering this clear call within our hearts to be of service, there are many ways to go about it. And the only way is your way. That is the way. I needed to go to experience what I experienced. I needed those clinical foundations. I needed to learn in a rapid, fast container of transformation, going from the entertainment industry of Jamie, the musical theater actor, Jamie, the actress, Jamie, that version of me, into Jamie, the of service healer, Jamie, the therapist, Jamie, the support system. I needed those clinical skills for that jump. I needed those clinical skills so that I could really sink the foundation of my new now. However, everyone is so unique and everyone is on their path, and one path leads to the next. There is no destination. The destination is that it's another path.
Right. And we live in such a beautiful time where we can seek out that education without it needing to be at a university or being so structured, because some people, a lot of people, I was a teacher for so long, don't fit the traditional education system. So we do live in a world where we can find the information we need in so many other places. Yeah. So here's a question for you, though, especially someone who may be older, and they do have this programming, this conditioning, where this type of career or having to have these diplomas and certifications, yet it doesn't feel right to them, like in their heart and their souls. What kind of advice would you give to them if it's more of a programming that they're being pushed into the university, but their heart and their soul is telling them something else? How could something you share with them help to soften that old belief or soften their nervous system into making a choice that isn't necessarily what like their family would accept, or what they think society might not think is enough if they go a different path? What can you recommend for that?
I would say you are not alone.
Right.
Right. Every day it's part of the deprogramming. We are living in a world where the conditioning is still so strong, and yet so are we. So what I have to do every day, Darlene, and you know this, we've talked about this, I have to love my human self with so much patience and understanding and acceptance, and let her fall into those places where the shoulds and the theys have top billing, while I also know that the inherent divinity within me is so strong that it's going to love those sides of me that do feel the fear, do feel like I've got to conform, do feel like I need the letters after my name for people to take
Mm-hmm.
seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to love her so deeply and hold her so tightly and whisper so gently in her ear every day. It's okay. We got this. It's really okay. And that's where these, I would say, magical practices come into play for me. They give me so much support. They give me so much continued patience for redirecting me back to, right, my light. And that is that unshakable knowing that this connection, this communication that I have to my higher self, to my source self, to my ascended masters, to my guides, that I really, really can trust in that. I really, really can listen to it, even when there are big parts of me that tell me I can't.
That's beautiful. And especially when someone is interested in their purpose and their passion, becoming their source of income.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you recommend somebody do before anything, before coming up with a business plan, before, structuring what their business might look like? There's some really important steps, and you were just getting to that. What should someone do before all of the business aspects come into play?
Well, this is going to be something that gets to be done over and over, no matter where we are in the path or where we are in the process, is doing the work in here. Because no matter what's happening out here, no matter how many paychecks we do or don't get to cash, it's this that is the gold. So finding your own practices, your own rituals, your own ceremonies, and you can do that on your own with books. You can do that on your own in a silent meditative state with your higher self. You can find your people, your tribe, and do that in community. You can find a mentor to work with who's on the earth plane with you. Or you can do any or all in any recipe. Like, find what works for you, for your heart to feel calm, to feel into the knowing, to feel into really receiving the totality that is you. And that is all of your beauty, all of your wisdom, all of your magic, all of your talent, all of your grace, everything, so that it's a consistent reset button. And that it's a place to land. And that is going to fertilize the space of calling in all of these beautiful souls that you're going to get to work with in every capacity.
That's beautiful. And as you're talking, what I'm imagining is, even whether it's an imaginary room or space, or someone has an actual space, a room, a pillow, and inviting these helpers in, our guides, our higher self, our soul, inviting them in consistently, regularly, daily, weekly, whatever that looks like for somebody, and talking and checking in with them. It feels like that is an important way to establish and create foundation before you put a business on top of anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And for people who are listening to this feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. Put your hand on your heart and remember that all of these things that you perceive are outside of you are inside of you, right? If you find a master mentor that is walking the earth with you, that's not another person above you, right? Reaching down to lift you up. This is your soul family just mirroring your light back to you.
That's beautiful. Right. In the process of creating a business, I think we do that. We put people on pedestals
That's the
And
con-
what's so important is if we remember our own light is there to guide us the whole way. And so these people who seem as if they have more information than we do, they're actually it's actually a reflection of where we're headed.
Absolutely. It's just another
Right?
version of us.
Yeah. Yes.
And
So
the simple thing, real quick before we move on, is if it
sure.
does feel overwhelming and people who are
Mm.
listening to this are in any stage of themselves thinking, ooh, I do talk to spirit guides, I do work with ascended masters, or I've never even connected to my higher self. There's no ladder of importance, right? We're
Thank
all
you.
equal. And a simple thing is just put your hand on your heart and say, does this bring me closer to love? Does this
Mm.
bring me closer to peace? Does this bring me closer to joy? Your heart is always going to answer from the seat of its divine perfection, no matter what. And those are such simple ways to be like, oh, that's intuitive. I'm listening to my higher self. I'm listening to my intuitive guidance, because you're going to get the nudge. We are such psychic beings, everyone
We
alive
are.
on earth today. We have, these wonderful abilities and activations, and, you know, we're all in it together and you're not alone. And yeah, if you need some support, get some support. Just remember that you are enough no matter what.
I love that. And we all need to hear that every day.
Absolutely. Me too.
Thank you so much for these beautiful insights. And I was going to ask you if you had a special technique, and that it's about you. It's about coming back to love. It's who Jamie Day is. Remind yourself that you are love.
Yeah. And you're
How
human
beautiful.
too. Like we get to
Yep.
mess up all the time. Yeah. And I was talking about this in the chakra activation temple. When's the last time you got a really big kick out of yourself? Like really finding yourself absolutely hilarious and endearing and cute and adorable just because you're being human. Find
We
those
need to,
moments.
yeah, we all need to give ourselves slack, right? And love each other. Love ourselves, love each other. Beautiful, beautiful message to remember
Yeah.
that we're all on this journey. We all, just take the time to come back to love. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to give the audience an opportunity to connect with you. How is a way that they can find you?
Say, let's share my email. And I'll give you my phone number. Call me, text me, let's talk. Let's really hear each other's voices. I want to do that. I want to be able to share in giving and receiving the love. I am regurgitating and alchemizing the rules that I've been told that tell me how to be who I am. And I want to talk. I want to connect. That's what's important to me.
That's beautiful. And I found your phone number. I believe it was your website.
Yeah. And right, we got to dance together in that beautiful sacred union container.
And a phone call with Jamie Day will change your life and bring you home to yourself.
Yeah, I love the work that I get to do, working with healing clients, teaching my classes, sharing the workshops. To me, that's why I'm here.
And it's beautiful, beautiful energy to be in your presence. Thank you so much for being on Hub Healer. And if you are interested in Jamie, you can reach out, and she's on Instagram. Jamie, Divine Mommy.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And that's my website as well, divine-mommy.com. So yeah, you can send me an email right through there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you will join us next time on Hub Healer, your path to holistic healing, the beginning and expand with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene.